My name's Anna Plattman, and I am 88.
When we're out together, dancing cheek to cheek.
My husband's name was Leonard Joel Plattman. Len. I only called him Leonard when I was cross.
I'm Andrew.
We made an apple crumble.
And I'm 60.
I'm Fran, and I'm 52.
And I'm Simon, I'm 57.
Len was a scientist in the plastics industry.
It was a bit of a mystery as to what he did, but it was very much
In
a
the library.
information's officer. Wasn't
Technical librarian.
All right. Maybe he was a spy.
Well,
You never know.
possibly.
I'd like to think so.
Oh, go away, they were kidding you.
I lived in the first floor flat in Bounds Green, and my dad was just in the first stages of Parkinson's and getting more immobile.
We had an aunt living here. She'd been widowed twice and thought it was time to come to a home, which was very sensible, and she chose this home. And we brought her in, and I said, I'm going to put our names down.
Hello, Anna. Good morning.
It was a friendly place. 4 years later, my husband was in a wheelchair by then. My son said, phone him up tomorrow, Mum.
It just felt like a very nice, kindly, warm place to be in.
They said, we have a flat. Would you like to look at it? And we came in 2 weeks later. And I've been here 11 years.
I'm Andrew Lee, I'm the Chief Executive of Hammerson House. Anna is a sheltered tenant, so she lives independently.
I cook and I have my own home here.
She makes the best egg stuff.
She boils a good egg.
She can make use of all the facilities and the community environment that Hammerson House provides.
On Tuesday and Thursday I go to art and I paint. I don't know what I'm doing really. My husband was the painter. I took it up with him here and that was fantastic.
As time went on, Dad became more frail.
He moved out of the apartment and he went into one of the nursing rooms.
It was nice that Grandma was only down the corridor and she didn't have the upheaval of having to go to a hospital.
And I would spend most of my time down there with him.
There were always staff that the family could talk to.
I was with Mum when Dad actually passed away, and they made it, they were most fantastic.
There was no feeling of anxiety. We just knew that he'd gone to sleep.
Every change that they've had in life has been helped by living in the home.
We just lived a very, very nice life for 57 years.
Before there was homes, they went to workhouses. And it wasn't that nice. There was no privacy or anything.
There was this one lords.
Wandsworth. He wanted to give up his home for Jewish people so that they didn't have to go to the workhouse.
He created
The home for aged Jews.
Aged Jews, yeah.
It was to get the Jewish old people out of the warehouse, the workhouse, and into better living conditions. They were called inmates, which is quite weird because they call people inmates when they're in prison. They allowed visitors, but not on Shabbos or Chags.
Which was a bit odd because you expect them to want it most on those sorts of days.
Home for Aged Jews changed its name to Nightingale House. And because it was on Nightingale Lane. Yeah, right.
The average age of the people that came into the Jewish elderly home was 65.
You weren't allowed to be ill, which is a strange concept, but you weren't allowed to be ill. They slept in dormitories. The Nightingale House is 100 years old. The other house was called Hammerson House. Hammerson House is 50.
I'm Anne Marks, and I was on the committee that helped to raise money to build Hammerson House 52 years ago.
Lewis Hammerson
He was a property developer.
and he was making a house for his family, and then he passed away.
So then his wife donated the land that he was going to use.
And he built a Hammerson care home, and that's now attached to Nightingale.
Well, when Hammerson started, I was asked to be one of the admissions officers. Of course, I had no experience.
Well, they went to Nightingale House and they trained them.
We went for 2 months every Thursday down to Nightingale to learn how to cope with people of that age.
Usually when they get older, they get a bit more stubborn. They call them residents now.
It sounds a lot better than inmates.
Residents are people that live in a place as a home. A home is also where you have people to protect you and care for you.
You would struggle to find anybody who said that they didn't like my father.
My father is an extremely outgoing, extrovert, sociable person.
He'll just make fun out of everyone just for the fun of it.
He's always very lively and jokey.
Morris is just a very warm, giving, generous man.
My father is 98, please God he'll be 99, 14th of November. He was the youngest of 4. His older sister was born in Ukraine, and then the family moved here and had 3 sons here. Mum and Dad got married in 1947, and then they moved to Edgware, I think it was 1954, and Dad lived in Edgware until he came to Nightingale last year. Money was always an issue, but love never was.
My mother died about 20 years ago, and right up until his 80s, mid-80s, Dad was extremely fit.
He started going on holidays for the whole winter, and he took on the family baking.
He used to make cornflakes and the chocolates on.
And we'd sort of give them like one each to all of our friends, and they'd all know them as Joe and Jacob's grandpa cakes.
The changing point in his life was when it would have been his early 90s, and he was in Portugal and he had a heart attack.
He was still very independent until he basically forgot what day it was.
The flat, first of all, started to look neglected, and then he became neglected. We would get a call from a neighbour saying, your father is wandering around Edgware looking lost.
He needed 2 lots of carers, one in the morning, one in the evening.
He wouldn't get up until the carer comes. He'd get up, eat and go back to sleep.
Each time I went round, I didn't know what I was going to find. Each time I left, I didn't know if it was going to be the last time I saw him.
We decided the time had come for my father to come to a nursing home.
I took a photo on the day that he moved here, and he looked like a decrepit little old man. After he'd been here for 2 weeks, it looked like he'd had a Gok-Wan extreme makeover. His hair had been cut, he was cleanly shaven, he'd seen an optician for the first time in 20 years, he'd seen a chiropodist, he'd seen a dentist, all of those things that were a nightmare to sort out.
They're learning to swim.
And he just thrived on it. In Walwing, there's a kind of familiarity for my father. There's so much from the East End that will be familiar to him.
Each person outside their room will have a little cabinet with photos from their history.
He used to do diving shows with his brother, back to back.
Diver.
They were crazy.
It was basically his brother's rucksack.
Backwards.
Having photos like that must somehow kind of almost reboot your memory to get back into a stage where you are so kind of motivated like he is now.
My father has an excellent relationship with the carers here. I must say, I think they are angels.
They're very tactile, and my father is really tactile. And so he gets that warmth and genuine affection.
He gets up every day, he'll go into activities.
I think it's just the stimulation, just keeping the brain active.
I know that you used to be a very good member in the synagogue in Edgware.
I was a choir boy.
To have a synagogue right here with Rafi, who's the most wonderful, wonderful, warm and kind, loving man who knows Dad and chats to him in Yiddish, is an amazing thing for him.
Morris is a wonderful example of somebody that has benefited not only from the standards of care, but from the beautiful building and environment created here.
I've never seen someone go from terrible
I've never seen
to
someone
something that's just perfect.
I've never seen someone go older and then younger again.
Who's that?
Our brother Frank.
Yeah.
Nightingale Hammerson has given my father a future at the age of 97 when he moved here.
Yeah. That's a while ago.
I think we must live each day and enjoy each day, which I do.
It's a very caring environment and it's a good place to live.
He cheats. He's comfortable, he's looked after, and he's happy.
They do a great job, an absolutely first-class job.